She didn't even look up. Diana Blackwell, CEO, heiress, and one of the most powerful women in the country, walked through the glass doors of Blackwell Enterprises like she owned the world, because she did, or at least she believed she did. Her heels clicked against the marble floor, sharp and deliberate, like a warning. It was 7:42 in the morning, and already something was wrong. The 42nd floor was supposed to be empty at that hour. Only senior staff had access, only people she trusted. And yet, as Diana stepped out of the private elevator, she saw her, a woman, white, in her late 30s, dressed in a gray cleaning uniform, a damp cloth in one hand, and a stack of paper in the other. She was standing directly in front of Diana's private bookshelf, the one behind the executive desk, the one that housed decades of company contracts, private correspondence, and financial records that had never left that room. Diana stopped cold. "What are you doing?" The woman flinched. Her head turned quickly, and for a brief moment she looked startled, almost frightened. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Had she been crying? I'm sorry, ma'am. I was just cleaning those are my private documents. Who gave you access to this floor? The agency sent me this week. I was told to clean the executive offices. I wasn't. Stop talking. Diana crossed the room in 4 steps and snatched the papers from the woman's hand. Her eyes scanned the pages. They appeared to be financial reports, old ones, but that was irrelevant. The woman had touched them, had held them, had possibly read them. In the back of the room, 2 junior associates had just arrived and stood frozen near the door, watching. Diana turned to her assistant. "Get security, now." "Ma'am, please." The woman stepped forward, reaching toward Diana's arm. Diana stepped back as though she'd been burned. "Don't touch me." The word she used next hung in the air like smoke. Not a slur, not something she could be quoted on. Just cold, dismissive, the kind of word that strips a person of their dignity without raising a voice. "You people always find a way in, don't you?" The woman's face went still. Behind her, a small voice broke the silence. "Mommy?" Everyone turned. Standing near the elevator, clutching a worn yellow backpack, was a little girl, no more than 6 years old. She had wide, frightened eyes, pale and green, like shallow water. She was looking directly at her mother, clearly sensing something was terribly wrong. Diana blinked. "You brought a child to a restricted office building? Her school doesn't open until 8. I had nowhere. It was just for 20 minutes, I promise. Please, I need this job. I need security." Arrived. "Escort both of them out. Flag her agency. Make sure she's never placed in this building again. Please." The woman's voice cracked. "Please, just let me explain. There's something you need to know. Something important. Please." But Diana had already turned her back. The woman was walked out in silence. The little girl followed close behind, her small hand gripping her mother's sleeve, never letting go. No one on the floor said a word, and Diana sat down at her desk, straightened her jacket, and reached for her morning briefing. She didn't think about the woman again, not yet. 3 days later, everything began to unravel. It started with a phone call from Blackwell's legal department. A routine internal audit had flagged an irregularity in the executive floor access logs. Nothing alarming, they said, just a formality. But then it wasn't. A set of documents was missing. Not the old financial reports the cleaning woman had been holding. Something else entirely. Something that had been sitting in a sealed envelope inside Diana's personal filing cabinet. A cabinet only she had the key to. The envelope contained the original amendment to her father's will, the one that had been signed and notarized 6 months before his death, the one that no one else was supposed to know about. Diana felt the room tilt. She called security. She reviewed every hour of footage from the past week. Her team combed through access logs, staff schedules, visitor records. And then the head of security placed a single printed image on her desk. It showed the cleaning woman, Clara, they'd found her name, standing at the filing cabinet. But the cabinet was already open, and Clara was not removing anything. She was placing something inside. Diana leaned forward, studying the time stop. It was moments before she had arrived that morning. "Pull all the footage," Diana said quietly. "Every angle, everything." What they found over the next 2 hours rewrote everything Diana thought she knew about that morning. Clara had not opened the filing cabinet. She had found it open. She had picked up a document from the floor beside it, a document that had fallen or been left there, and placed it back inside before continuing to clean. She had then moved to the bookshelf, organizing the papers stacked on top of it, not reading them. At no point had she attempted to take anything. The footage also showed someone else. 40 minutes before Diana arrived, before Clara arrived, a figure in a dark coat, someone who had badge access, someone Diana trusted, entering the office, opening the filing cabinet, removing something, and leaving. Diana's hands went cold. She knew that coat. She knew that walk. Her most senior partner, a man she had worked beside for 11 years. She sat very still for a long time, and then her assistant walked in holding an envelope. "This was couriered to the police department 2 days ago," he said carefully. "They just forwarded it to legal. It was sent by a woman named Clara Haynes. It's addressed to you." Diana opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter, and beneath it, a photograph. The letter was short, written in careful, deliberate cursive, as though the writer had rehearsed every word. It read, "My name is Clara Haynes. I was hired by a law firm, not a cleaning agency, to deliver a sealed document to your father, Edward Blackwell, on his behalf. He was ill and could no longer leave his home. The document was a letter he asked me to hand-deliver to you personally, along with something he wanted you to have. I was not sent to steal anything. I was sent to give something back. I understand why you didn't believe me. I understand why you were afraid. I know what it looks like when someone like me is in a room like that. But I need you to know your father was a kind man. He spoke about you every time I visited. He cried the last time I saw him. He said he hoped you would understand one day. I'm sorry I couldn't deliver this sooner. I'm sorry I couldn't make you listen. Please take care of yourself." Clara, beneath the letter, was the photograph. It showed a much younger Edward Blackwell, Diana's father, standing outside a hospital. He was holding a newborn baby, and beside him stood a young woman Diana had never seen before. On the back of the photograph, written in her father's unmistakable handwriting, "The daughter I gave away. Clara, born March 4th. Forgive me." The sealed document had never made it to Diana's desk. Her partner had taken it before she arrived. But the photograph had been inside Clara's jacket pocket, something personal, something Clara was simply meant to hand to Diana herself. And Diana had not let her speak. The sealed document, once recovered from her partner's office, contained the amendment to her father's will, a legal provision setting aside a portion of the estate, not to take anything from Diana, but to provide for the daughter he had surrendered decades ago, a daughter he had searched for, a daughter he had found, quietly, in the last year of his life, a daughter he had wanted Diana to know. But the deadline for filing the amendment with the court had passed the morning Diana threw Clara out. By 37 minutes, Diana sat alone in that office for a long time. She thought about the little girl with the green eyes and the yellow backpack. She thought about the way Clara had reached toward her and the words she had used to push her away. She thought about her father, sitting in a house somewhere, asking a woman he barely knew to carry something precious across the city. because he believed somehow that his daughters would want to find each other. He had been wrong about that. He had been wrong about Diana. She picked up the phone and called her legal team. The amendment could not be enforced. The window had closed, but there were other things she could do, things that could not be undone by missed deadlines or stolen documents. She asked for Clara's address. She was told that Clara had returned to work the day after she was removed. A different building, a different floor, the same gray uniform. Diana drove there herself. No driver, no security, no assistant. She walked in carrying the photograph, and she waited. When Clara came around the corner pushing a cleaning cart and saw her standing there, she stopped. Her face was unreadable. Diana did not reach for her hand. She did not offer a title or an explanation. She had no script for this moment, because no one had ever taught her how to be wrong at this magnitude. She simply said, "I didn't let you speak, and I'm sorry." Clara looked at her for a long time. Then she looked down at the photograph in Diana's hand. "He wanted us to meet," Clara said quietly. "I know." The silence between them was not comfortable. It was not a reunion wrapped in warmth and forgiveness. It was something harder and more honest than that. It was two women standing on opposite sides of a life that had been shaped by decisions neither of them had made, and trying for the first time to see each other clearly. Behind Clara, from around the corner, came the sound of small footsteps. The little girl appeared. She looked up at Diana with those pale green eyes. Edward Blackwell's eyes, Diana now realized, and said nothing. She just watched. Diana looked back, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, she had nothing to say. No command to give, no judgment to issue, nothing to protect herself with. Just the quiet, devastating truth of what she had almost lost, what she might still lose if she chose, again, not to listen. There is a kind of poverty that has nothing to do with money. It is the poverty of a person who has so much that they've stopped being able to see what matters, who walks past the truth every morning because the truth doesn't look the way they expected it to, who mistakes silence for guilt and vulnerability for threat. Diana Blackwell lost more in 30 seconds than most people lose in a lifetime, not because someone took something from her, but because she refused to stop long enough to listen. The question this story leaves us with is not whether Diana deserved what happened to her. The question is simpler than that. When was the last time you let someone finish their sentence, not because you had to, but because you understood that every person standing in front of you is carrying something you cannot see? We do not always get a second chance to find out what that something is. Think carefully before you turn your back.